Hey, what up? This is Zach Guilford from Midnight Mass, and you're listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Pop Culture Pastor.
Pop Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, not a lot of people know this about me, but my favorite movie soundtrack of all time is Purple Rain. My favorite halftime Super Bowl performance of all time is Prince. Basically, Prince is really like, if I had to pick a favorite musician of all time, my personal favorite, I would probably end up on Prince. I love Prince. I love everything Prince. I love Dave Chappelle's Prince skits. I love everything about Prince.
So I completely forgot that U2 did a halftime show until I was watching a U2 documentary, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Because they had all the names of the victims of 9/11, because it was the first Super Bowl after 9/11. And I'm like, I didn't appreciate U2 as much as I do today. Yeah. So like U2 would be my go-to, but I respect Prince. Yeah, that's a solid choice.
He was a crazy good musician, and I'm sad he's gone because we should have had more years of him. But I'm reminded of this because DJ, who was on the pod last week, he sent us this portion of a Kevin Smith talk. If you don't know who Kevin Smith is, he's a film director, directed Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Jay and Silent Bob. That's Kevin Smith.
You're leaving off maybe his best work.
I said Mallrats.
Dogma. Dogma is
Dogma,
it.
yes. Dogma is very good as well. So he sent us this portion of a Kevin Smith talk where he's talking about how he worked for Prince briefly because Prince wanted him to film a documentary about faith. So he was making an album about faith. Now,
and not Faith Hill.
No, about his faith in Jesus. Although, as it turns out, Prince was a Jehovah's Witness. And I actually looked this up. This is legit. He actually went to a Jehovah's Witness church there in Minnesota.
So both my wife and I actually knew that.
Yeah.
Before.
I had heard bits and pieces of it, but never in quite the detail that Kevin Smith was telling this story.
The Kevin Smith story was like, whoa.
So he was making this album that never saw the light of day. It's still probably in his vaults, which I'm like, I must hear this album. I need to hear this album, Cody.
So my favorite solo artist is Beck. And Beck's kind of like, he's a unique cat as well, but he's recorded a bunch of stuff at Paisley Park.
Really?
Since Prince's death. Like the Prince estate really likes Beck.
That's weird.
And so like now I'm wanting like that documentary from Kevin Smith, and then I want like a Beck at Paisley Park documentary.
I mean, like, look, he's Jehovah's Witness. He was obviously really weird. Prince was just a weird guy. And so in the story, he recounts a lot of weirdness from Prince. Clearly, he has this kind of skewed faith because, you know, a lot of the time when we talk about our Christian stuff, we actually talk about that Christians are actually too influenced by each other. So we have community, we have preachers, we listen to preachers, and some preachers preach things that aren't, they're connecting some dots. Maybe they shouldn't. So we talk a lot about when we're influenced too much and less, trying to read the Bible for ourselves. Prince is maybe the opposite. And one of the few I've ever seen like this, where he probably didn't have that community. And so he's just with his wild imagination connecting all these dots himself, where he could have probably used more of the oversight from like a pastor and community that you would get in a church. Anyways, he has all these kind of weird things about it, but that I didn't even care. I was just like, I just want to hear this album. Because he shelves it. He throws it in the vault. And apparently he did that all the time.
Which isn't surprising. Like, very creative types, they don't always put their work out there because either it wasn't up to their standard, they're not done with it. Like Leonard Cohen, the guy that wrote Hallelujah.
Yeah.
It took him like a decade to write that.
Wow.
And even the final version of his the original, like he kept writing verses after it. There's like 70 pages of like verses that he hand wrote. And so like his version's different than Jeff Buckley's, but Jeff Buckley's using Leonard Cohen's lyrics, just later updated versions. And so Yeah. It's I'm not surprised that Prince has a vault of just a whole bunch of stuff that's probably really, really great. He's like, world's not ready for it, or I'm not done with it, or whatever.
Are we ever going to get to hear it, or did it die with him? Because Paisley Park, whoever owns the estate, they seem to have not any interest in making the monies. Not like Tupac's estate, where they were all in, man.
You got
all of a sudden there were tons of unreleased music from Tupac.
You gotta hope that maybe someone. So Michael Jackson's like unreleased works was on a laptop and it got stolen, and people were running through the streets with it. Yeah, you gotta hope that someone from the Prince estate's just wandering around loosey goosey with his collected works.
I need a movie made by Kevin Smith about his story about working for Prince on this Faith documentary. That's what I need, because that was amazing. Just amazing talk. This is back when Kevin Smith was doing those campus, like he'd go.
Yeah, he was at Kent State in this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who goes and talks to Kent State?
Also, this is like the precursor. So I knew he did these speaking tours, and it was the precursor to podcasts. Because Kevin Smith, I don't know if a lot of people know this, he's really one of the first people to master podcasts and really make money off of it and do it well. But Kevin Smith's just a good talker.
He is. Because like during this, you see him react on the fly and like make witty remarks just like instantly in good flow, good voice.
Yeah. Great storyteller. He'd have made a great preacher.
He would have.
Okay. Welcome. This is Pop Culture Pastor.
Yeah, I don't think we ever introduced the show.
We didn't. This is Pop Culture Pastor. My name is Dave. That's Cody. And we got a lot to get to here on the pod today. So we're just going to get into it. But right now, we need to go out to the lobby. We've got a couple things. We got a lot of things to do. We're gonna answer some listener questions, and we're gonna talk to my daughter.
Are we going to get some Raisinets?
I'm not. Why would you get those? Disgusting.
It's healthy, Dave. It's healthy.
I'm getting nachos and a large Mountain Dew. All right.
Not healthy.
All right. We're going out to the lobby. We'll see you there. All right. We're out in the lobby getting ourselves a snack.
Snack.
Snacks. I want snacks. Nachos for me. Gross covered raisins for Cody.
They're chocolate covered raisins.
Yeah, whatever.
That's not gross.
Whatever. So says you.
So
Let's just do a poll. Informal poll. Everybody listening right now. Who thinks Raisinets are good? Nobody.
Not I.
I'm just saying they don't sell them at a movie theater for kicks and giggles.
Those ones that you're buying, they've probably been there for 20 years.
They
They're collecting dust. No expiration date on those bad boys.
I always say, do things go bad?
Yes.
And
yes,
I
they do.
am living proof that maybe they don't.
All right. We're out here in the lobby to answer listener questions, and that is what we are going to do. Scotty Walker.
I'm familiar with Scotty.
Scotty, contributor, Comic Conclave, comic book reading club reader. Leader.
Guy who's met Kevin Eastman like I've met Kevin Eastman.
Oh my goodness. Are we ever going to stop hearing about this? So
No.
Cody met one of the creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at Planet Comic Con this past weekend, just so you know.
His name was Kevin.
It will not be the last time you hear this.
We bumped fist.
I have heard that they have bumped fist like 40 times. He was
Make
very
it
excited.
41.
Kevin Eastman. I mean, it's impressive. Kevin Eastman. Your wife met Mr. Feeney.
She did.
Yeah.
Which was the person that I actually had really wanted to meet, but I had a comic book I wanted Kevin to sign.
He is old.
Feeney is, not Kevin.
No, not Kevin. Mr. Feeney. I was genuinely afraid that your wife would be the last person to ever see him alive. Like
that
was
is sad.
That was a fear that I had. But luckily I have not heard, so he's apparently still among us.
Shatner's also old.
Yeah, Shatner's pretty old too. He just turned 91 today.
92, actually.
He just turned 92 today.
I saw the post that said that he was 91, and then I'm like, the math doesn't add up. And then I went online, and other places were also reporting 92.
Fake news.
Fake news.
All right. Scotty Walker says, what is your guys' favorite novel of all time? Favorite novel. Now, he says novel. That makes me feel like, does it have to, what do we consider a novel? Just any book?
That's the question.
Or does it have to be literature?
Technically, a novel is like 50,000 words or more.
That's my daughter, Aila.
Thank you, Aila.
She couldn't wait to her spot. That's my daughter, Aila. What is it? What's the definition?
It's not like a definition. It's like to technically be considered a novel, it's 50,000 words. And like 20,000 or like 15,000, between 15,000 and 50,000 is like a novella.
Okay, well, I'm not counting the words of everything I've read.
No.
So, like, does that rule out graphic novels?
Yes. No, clearly that's not what Scotty meant. We know what Scotty meant. A book. What's your favorite book, Cody?
Oh, that's so tough. So, like, I really love short stories. Mm-hmm. So, like, if we're going a true novel, To Kill a Mockingbird's a classic. Mm-hmm. And it's considered one of the best novels.
Is it a novel how many words is To Kill a Mockingbird?
Pretty sure it's a novel.
Yeah. I like To Kill a Mockingbird too, but it seems cliche, doesn't it? To say that one.
Well, are you going to say The Great Gatsby?
Is To Kill a Mockingbird like the great American novel? Or is it Kurt Vonnegut? Some people say Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know.
You're pretentious if you're going Vonnegut.
Well, that's what I would say too. Or the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas guy.
Hunter S. Thompson?
Yeah.
Which someone was dressed up as him at Comic-Con this weekend. And I'm like, who's allowing their little girl to dress like that?
It was a little girl?
Yes.
Wow. It's a deep cut. I don't know. I feel like I can't say the Lord of the Rings trilogy because it's 3 books.
It's 3 books. And I don't know if by themselves that I would uplift it.
Yeah.
So a one-off, that's why I went To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
Otherwise, I might have said Harry Potter.
Like there's series that I enjoyed, but if I'm talking about a one-off, one shot, one chance, once in a lifetime, Mom Spaghetti. That was an Eminem joke.
That was.
I'm gonna go. I mean, because I enjoyed Watership Down. Like we're getting classic type stuff. I enjoyed To Kill a Mockingbird. I enjoyed
The Odyssey,
The Killer Angels, which is a fictionalized Battle of Gettysburg story. But I think I'm gonna go The Stand.
I was going to say Stephen King, if my wife was here, would list off like 15.
Yeah, and The Stand is whatever the requirement is for a novel, he's like, The Stand is like times 20. That's a big book. That's a whole lot of words.
It's like the Bible.
But bigger. I bet there's more words in The Stand than the Bible.
Ew.
Yeah, it's a big book. I don't know. That might be pushing it. Okay. Kyle Kessinger asks us, what are we watching that isn't new? I'm currently on season 3 of The Fall Guy, starring Lee Majors. I know who's in it. But also respect.
So recently they just dropped on Peacock one of the new Superfan seasons of The Office, and so I'm watching whatever new Superfan season The Office is out for something that's not new. It's still old, but it's like director's cut Office.
Yeah. I've been pretty much I pretty much always cycle through Friends and old wrestling because I watch that before I go to bed. So old WCW wrestling and Friends are kind of always on a loop for me. But then if you're asking me like what I'm intentionally kind of going back and watching here and there, Psych would be one, the show Psych, which I think is like largely one of the most underrated comedy shows ever.
So did that start off on USA?
Yes, it was the
Okay.
USA Network.
So I feel that the USA shows don't get the just desserts that they have coming to them. That Psych was really great. Forever and a day, everyone and their mom was watching Monk, and no one talks about Monk anymore. And I'm like,
No one ever talked about Monk then.
they did.
Who are all these people that were watching Monk? They wrote books. There was like books that went along with the show. And I'm like, who watches Monk? I don't know anybody that watches Monk.
I did.
You did.
Tony Shalhoub did not act and overachieve for you to be knocking Monk. And the biggest star from Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, not named Ryan Reynolds, was in it.
This vicious Tony Shalhoub slander. All right. There was something else that I've been watching and it kind of escaped my mind. But there's something else that's old that I've been kind of going. Oh, I've been re-watching some Smallville because they came out with that Smallville episode by episode podcast with Tom Welling and Michael Rosenbaum, who played the two main characters. That's been kind of enjoyable. Although at times I watch an episode of Smallville, I'm like, I can't believe I was into this show.
I have said that for years.
Stop it. David Allen asks, will the Super Mario Brothers movie be the best animated movie of all time? And why is the answer yes?
Well, thank you for answering.
I mean, it can't be the best animated movie of all time.
I mean, a Goofy movie still exists.
Oh, geez.
They didn't knock that out of contention.
You guys, you and the Goofy movie, you and Jackson, and apparently people your age. I called you a kid. Kids.
Yeah.
You Utes.
Like up still out there in existence, The Lion King. I might say this could be the best video game animated movie. And
Yeah.
I would not have any beef with it. But like even The Killing Joke for like nerdy things, Batman's The Killing Joke that's a great animated classic.
And Geek of the Round Table, Scott Patrick Dillon says the answer is no because it's not Into the Spider-Verse, which
And that one's a great one
is
too.
a great animated movie. Yeah. Like, I don't know, Dave. I think you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Dave, you just need to relax because you don't want to build it up like the best of all time now because that only leaves room for disappointment.
It does. Unless
You're going to be like me with Kang because I just thought Ant-Man was going to be the greatest thing ever because it had Kang in it. And it was not.
I warned you.
It had nowhere to go.
I told you. I'm like, this is an Ant-Man movie. But Kang was amazing. And so I had cashed all my stock in on Kang and I was not disappointed.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's where we're at. It looks like it's going to be pretty good. The trailer's great. It's one of the best trailers I've ever seen for an animated movie. I'll tell you that.
So it comes out April 5th, my birthday. I'm excited.
Okay. We're just free advertising for Cody's birthday.
We are.
All right. My daughter's here, Aila, because she's about to give us a Gen Z review, Gen Z breakdown of the movie we're doing. But she has a question for the lobby.
Gen Z.
Gen Z? What's Gen Z?
That's how you say in Britain.
Oh,
Of the great variety.
okay.
Z.
All right.
Okay. What I would like to know is if you could have someone make a Broadway musical, like you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is you get to choose the story. What Broadway musical are you creating?
Like any story I want.
It can be an adaptation or it can be something you make up.
Okay. Well, I mean, is it too cliche to say I would want a Broadway musical about my life? I mean, my life's probably not exciting enough, but that's the whole point of the Broadway musical is you make it exciting. You make it dramatic with the sad music and then the happy music and then the sad music and then the happy music.
I don't know because so the first two Broadway things I see on Broadway is Wicked and Spam-A-Lot. And Spam-A-Lot, Oh my goodness. Like it had great source material before.
Yeah.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So
I mean,
it was funny, and then they just added extra funny songs to it.
yeah, okay. I just would always want, like, give me a Broadway musical of my life. Maybe that's what happens in heaven. Is heaven the angels put on a Broadway style display of your life? That's how you go back and look at all the things you've done. That's how you take account. Or if we're taking a story, maybe it's because I'm immensely just all jacked up on Ki Hai Kwan's Oscar win. But maybe a Broadway musical of the Goonies adaptation would be amazing.
That's legit. So I want to go real life for a hot second and say, I want a Broadway musical over the 92 Olympic Dream Team.
Ooh. That would be interesting.
It would be interesting, especially if you can get someone to play Isaiah and him being like, I had all the credentials.
I don't know why I wasn't selected, because nobody liked you.
So, yeah, I'd have that in there. And then something that's been talked about. And, I hope it comes to fruition. A Fast and Furious Broadway musical.
I'm out.
Family.
I'm out. All right. That'll about do it for the lobby. Now we're going to get into our Be Kind Rewind for Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But first, we're going to my daughter for a new segment when we do these kind of things. She's going to do a breakdown of the movie for Gen Z, or Gen Z, as it were. The Gen Z breakdown of Pee-wee's Big Adventure coming up.
All right. Pee-wee's Big Adventure is this crazy, chaotic movie. Basically, the movie opens and Pee-wee is just living his best life in this super bougie house that has lots of cool stuff. And I want his house, honestly. We're introduced to Pee-wee's neighbor, I think it's his neighbor, Francis, who does not pass the vibe check at all. He's like super rich and mean. He wants Pee-wee's bike. And Pee-wee loves his bike. And Francis is not happy about that. He's not vibing with that. Pee-wee is just, going about his day, doing normal Pee-wee things, which apparently includes going to weird joke shops and stuff. And then he goes out into this parking lot, where he left his bike chained up. And he's like, oh my gosh, my bike is missing. Like, that's not the vibe. So Pee-wee thinks, what else is there to do but go see the fortune teller? So he goes to the fortune teller, and the fortune teller's all like, I can see your future. And Pee-wee is like, okay, bet. And she's like, your bike is in the basement of the Alamo, basically is what she says. And so Pee-wee's like, oh, I have to go to Texas, go to the Alamo, go to the basement, retrieve my bike. Pee-wee decides he's going to hitchhike because he has no bike. And he meets this super sketchy dude who's an escaped convict, supposedly for ripping the tags off of mattresses, but he's really sussy, so it's probably not that. I mean, right here, I'm just going to say there are plenty of illegal things happening in this movie, such as the escaped convict stuff, and I'm pretty sure they evade a police officer at some point. But I think the largest crime committed in this movie is when Pee-wee washes his hands and washes the dishes in the place with his suit sleeves not rolled up. That is disgusting, and I can't. But anyway, Pee-wee just meets all these crazy people. There's this other person he catches a ride with, actually more like a ghost, and she tells this super creepy story about how there was this crazy accident, and then her face goes all wonky, and he's like, that's creepy, no thanks. And he gets off, he goes to the bar place, the diner place, I don't really know, and he meets this girl, Simone, and he's like, "You're slaying." That's how I perceive it. They have a thing, and they watch the sunrise from a mouth of a dinosaur, and then Simone's boyfriend tries to attack her, and then she runs away to Paris. Then Pee-wee gets to the Alamo, and Pee-wee's like, "Hey, can we go to the basement?" And the girl's like, "Bruh, there is no basement here." And so he's like, "Well, that sucks." And Pee-wee is just kind of wandering aimlessly. He ends up in this bar with a biker gang. They try to kill him, but instead he dances to tequila. And then he ends up in the hospital because they gave him a bike, but he ran into a sign. He wakes up in the hospital and the TV is on, and he finds his bike. And he's like, "Sweet." And so he goes to Hollywood to retrieve his bike, which he does. And then Warner Bros. Turns his story into a movie-ish. Also, Pee-wee fumbled so hard with Dottie. Like, Dottie is so sweet to him. He should have been nicer to her. Yeah, that's my thoughts on this movie.
All right, Cody, there you have it. I have no idea what half the words she just said.
That's bussin'.
What's bussin'?
I speak the kids' lingo.
All right. Thank you to my daughter Aila for our Gen Z breakdown of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This is what we're here for. It's a Be Kind rewind for 1984's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. 84? No, 85.
I was going to say, I thought it was 85, but
It's 85.
I wasn't alive. I can't tell you.
This movie's almost 40 years old. Oh my goodness, I feel so old.
Ouch.
Wow. This movie, when it came out, Cody, this movie was a big deal.
It was the cat's pajamas.
It is hard to undersell just how big Pee-wee was in the 80s after this movie came out. I mean, he was huge. It spawned a Saturday morning TV show called Pee-wee's Playhouse. A lot of people just assumed that Pee-wee's Playhouse was probably a thing, and then the movie happened. No. He was kind of an unheard of dude, was Paul Reubens. In fact, Pee-wee was like this character he did in kind of like an improv comedy show that tended to be a little bit more adult.
I'm too young for it.
and he kind of, they turn it into this movie with the help of Tim Burton in his directorial debut. He's 26 years old, is Tim Burton, when he directs this movie. And when I went back and watched it yesterday, I just don't know. I have a hard time, and we'll get to this with who wins the movie, but I have a hard time deciding who has the biggest hand in making this movie what it is.
I already know who the winner is, and it's going to irritate you. So,
Well, it usually does. Okay, so Pee-wee's Big Adventure made for $7 million, grossed $41 million at the box office. That's a huge percentage profit.
slightly impressive.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was a big deal. It spawns TV shows, sequels, and basically a craze until Paul Reubens has an incident that we shall not talk about.
Rubens.
Which, you know, in retrospect, in hindsight, if it happened today, it wouldn't be nearly as big of a deal. But we're not going to talk about it.
I'm not talking about it.
Yeah. So he kind of drops off the face of the earth after the incident. It's weird because he was huge. And it all starts with this movie. And it's just like weirdly fate collides. Destiny collides in this movie because you have Tim Burton doing his first directorial debut. Tim Burton, who's recognized as one of the greatest directors of our generation. This was his start. Danny Elfman, his constant working companion, doing the scores for Tim Burton's movies. Danny Elfman does the score for this movie. It's the first time they work together.
And you're leaving off a big name.
Oh, I am?
That has a significant role in this movie. The person that co-wrote it,
Yeah.
one Philip Hartman.
Phil Hartman of Saturday Night Live fame not only co-writes this, but he kind of helped come up with the character of Pee Wee Herman.
And so I know I always get flack for saying this, but I'm going to say it. He's on my Mount Rushmore of SNL cast members. Phil Hartman.
Well, he certainly would be for sure for guys that don't get the credit they deserved. Because you didn't know, like, here's the thing is people didn't know how big Phil Hartman was in the writing room and behind the scenes. Phil Hartman, when you see interviews from people on SNL back then, they tell you, they say Phil Hartman was a genius.
And his delivery of being the dad in the Matt Foley skit.
Now, we're not trying to come down on you. That's not what we're about.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just perfect. You're right. You will never hear any Hartman slander from me.
Thank you.
So yeah, a lot of forces converging on this movie to make it a hit. And it's such a weird movie. It's so deliciously weird. But let's do the broad take here. Essentially, like my daughter said, this is a movie about a boy, a man boy who gets his bike stolen. So right off the front, and I remember this bothered me as a kid when I watched it. Pee Wee and Francis seem to be both stuck in their juvenile places with adult male bodies, which is just a little weird.
It's a lot weird.
It's a lot weird. They're the only two characters stuck that way, though. Everyone else is normal. Their kids are kids. The adults are adults. But Pee Wee and Francis, it's weird that Pee Wee and Francis, his nemesis, is also a man-child who has an Olympic-sized bathtub.
That was impressive.
Man, that's a big bath. Francis is getting his bath. Oh, yeah? Where are they hosing him down? Some great lines in this movie. Unbelievably quotable movie. So, yeah, his bike gets stolen. Spoilers, it's Francis. You find that out pretty early on, that he was the one behind it. But he doesn't. Pee Wee doesn't find out for a long time. He suspects that it was Francis.
He does.
But the audience is in on it much sooner, which is hilarious because Francis is you get this scene pretty early on in the movie with Francis and the guy that he hired to steal it. And Pee Wee's on the radio talking about his bike and the award that he's not really going to give out. And Francis is like, it's too hot. It's too hot. I didn't sign up for this. Just get rid of the bike. And we're like, dude, what'd you think was going to happen? You basically stole the General Lee. Or the A-Team van. How did you think you were going to get away with this?
Because it was his birthday, Dave.
Francis is getting his bath. Yeah. So the bike gets stolen, and basically what this amounts to is it's a road movie. It's a road movie. It
is.
Pee Wee, vignettes of Pee Wee on the road searching for his bike. Surrounded by a crazy cast of characters.
Very crazy cast of characters. And trying to get to the basement of the Alamo.
Silly. There's no basement in the Alamo. All right. Let's get right to the good stuff, man. I'm just going to say this right off the bat because from the jump, the sounds of Danny Elfman's score the music in this movie is just iconic. If you were a kid when this movie came out, it is unmistakable. And it's so funny that Danny Elfman and Tim Burton, when they got together, would usually be iconic because the Batman, the 80s Batman movie that comes out.
89.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It was absolutely iconic music from Danny Elfman, and it's no different here. And Danny Elfman's just great. Did you know he was the lead singer of Oingo Boingo?
Not only did I not know that, I don't know what an Oingo Boingo is.
Well, it was an 80s band. And so in this, he's like the 80s version of Trent Reznor. I mean, not in their music's not even sort of similar, but he has the same career path where he starts off in a band and then transfers into like soundtracks, movie soundtracks, which is what Trent Reznor does now. Which if you'd have told me that back in like the early 90s, I'd been like, what?
So Danny is one of the big dogs on the Doors movie.
Okay.
The sound and production music stuff for it.
Yeah, he's wildly accomplished. One of the best. And so for me, that's one of the good stuff right off the bat. Danny Elfman. What do you got?
So I have just the quotability of it. I know what you are, but what am I?
No, you are, but what am I? We basically do that on the show when we get mad at each other. No, you are, but what am I? No, you are. Infinity. No. No, you stop. Oh, man.
Oh, so there's so much from this that has made its way into pop culture. Just lines and looks. And in the 90s, like every kid that's around my age, plus or minus like 3 or 4 years, had a Pee Wee Herman impersonation.
Oh.
My mom hated it. I was not allowed to watch Pee Wee's Playhouse.
I thought I was going places, Cody. As a kid in the 80s, I had a darn good impersonation of Pee Wee Herman and Bobcat Goldthwait. And then
comedic gold.
And then my voice changed and ruined everything because, I had Pee Wee down. See, I don't have the right timbre anymore.
You don't.
In my voice. I can't do it. But I had a Pee Wee and I had a Bobcat. And every kid did. You're absolutely right about that. Super quotable movie. So when I was rewatching this last night, there were things I remember. So, there are phrases that someone can say out in the real world where if like someone says, come on, man, listen to reason. Shh, I'm listening to reason. So good. So good. Yeah, it's way more quotable than I remember. Even today, you sent me a text that said, everyone's got a big butt. Simone, tell me about your big butt. We already mentioned Phil Hartman, his part in the movie. So I had that on my list. The opening house sequence is so chaotic and fun that it really kind of sets the tone. This tone of the movie. So you have the dream where, first of all, I should stop with the dream because there's something about the daydreaming where the character's dreaming, and Pee Wee does this a lot. Christmas Story is another movie that uses that a lot. Thank you to the makers of this movie because they made a young Dave not feel like he wasn't weird.
Scrubs does it a lot too.
Good. I like stuff like that. Somewhere along the lines, we called kids daydreamers and tried to snap them back to reality. And we wonder why people don't have very much imagination these days and they're not problem solvers because we made them feel bad. And I love movies like this. So it starts off with that dream sequence and then this 5-minute sequence of him getting ready for his day in the morning is so chaotic and fun that it made every kid that watched it, like it was like my daughter said, it's his bougie house. And everybody wanted it. We all wanted it. Although, even as a kid, I'm like, where are his parents? Shouldn't his parents be there? Also, he's wasting a lot of food.
So that would be one of my bad parts of the movie.
It doesn't hold up.
Pee-wee is so wasteful. So wasteful. Like, he makes a pancake or has a pancake on his plate. There's like 5 or 6 stuck to the ceiling. and then he pours out a whole bunch of Mr. T cereal and then doesn't eat any of it.
Somewhere there is a correlation between the movies I loved as a kid and the presence of Rube Goldberg devices. Goonies,
Yes.
This movie were two of my favorites. Both have Rube Goldberg devices for no apparent reason.
Like when I'm on Facebook Reels or TikTok and they have those, I'm like, who has the time and the energy to do this?
And Pee-wee's is amazing because, like, so he has pancakes, eggs, Mr. T cereal. A penny fool, don't eat my cereal.
Exactly.
He has all of this food, but really that's readily preparable within like 5 minutes. Just doing it normal. This saves no time.
None at all.
Except now he can go back to the bathroom and waste Scotch tape.
Why does he have Scotch tape in the bathroom? I don't know.
I don't know, but this movie was a pain to mothers everywhere because every kid did this with the Scotch tape. And then the mom would go get the Scotch tape to wrap presents at Christmas. Like, where's all the tape? Oh, I don't know. And we knew exactly what happened to it. We were taping our nose up.
As one does.
Pee-wee's bike. Every kid in the 80s wanted that bike, man.
It's a pretty snazzy bike.
Oh, that bike is so stinking amazing. It was so believable to every kid that watched it too, that this was like just the amazingness. That bike, did you know there was multiple, so there was like 10 or something bikes, duplicate bikes that they used. One of them sold for over $30,000 on eBay in 2018.
What?
Which just goes to show you that bike really is special, man. People wanted that bike.
Well, I mean, in his dream, he was winning the Tour de France.
Yeah. Yeah. It was that bike's amazing. And totally justified that he went crazy when it got stolen.
Does it justify it? Does it?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
So something else that was good, although this is a very specific thing for Cody, it won't be for the listening audience. So when they're in Texas and they start singing Deep in the Heart of Texas.
Yes.
So it reminded me right before the pandemic, like before the lockdown stuff. The last trip I took, I went to Dallas. Mm-hmm. And in Frisco, which is a suburb in Dallas, they have Babe's Chicken.
Oh, wow.
And, this place does it like family style. Mm-hmm. And, it was really, really good. But, like, every half hour, they would sing another song, but then on the hour, they would sing Deep in the Heart of Texas.
Yes!
And would, like, dance and clap.
So it's fun. This lines up, and I totally believe this. My family and I, about 5 or 6 years ago, went to Galveston on a vacation. And the whole time we were in Texas, I'd convinced my kids to just randomly yell that out every once in a while. The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart, to see if people would join in like they do in the movie.
They do.
Well, if they don't, we pretend they do. Texas people, do you?
Hear rumors that song may be problematic. I don't know.
Everything's problematic. Everything's problematic. That's why we can't have nice things. Back to the quotable stuff. The scene where he has everyone over to go through all the evidence.
Yes.
Has one of my absolute favorite lines from the entire movie, because he's producing evidence and they're talking amongst themselves. And he says, "Is there something you can share with the rest of us, Amazing Larry?" And Amazing Larry has like the perfect stunned face. Also, Amazing Larry's got some crazy hair going on. I want to know more of his story.
There's a lot of side characters that I'm like, why didn't we do a spinoff?
Oh, the characters are deep, man. Chuck, who's apparently Jamaican, who owns a bike store.
Yep.
You got Amazing Larry, Is he the magic store owner guy? Or no, he's a different guy.
He's a different guy.
We don't get any background on Amazing Larry.
He just has really cool hair. The magic store guy, I would like a background story done.
Simone, Mick the convict.
Yes. What is that lady's name? That is the Tina. She's the tour guide of the Alamo.
Also, by the way, she's also passed. I didn't know
Yes.
that. She's passed away as well. Her and Phil Hartman, both Saturday Night Live alums.
Rest in peace, Jan.
Jan Hooks. Yeah. She was on when a lot of those dudes in our favorite run were on. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So the quotes again, let's talk about Large Marge. Large Marge is maybe the most iconic scene in this movie. Am I wrong?
So it's definitely in the top 2 or 3. And like, if you say that you watch Pee-wee's and you mention Large Marge, everyone knows who you're talking
Yeah.
about.
This was when I rewatched it last night. This was when I really felt Tim Burton's, like, because obviously when I watched this when I was younger, and even the times I've seen it as an adult, I wasn't really thinking about Tim Burton's presence. This, when I watched it last night with kind of like the critical eye, was like, oh man, this is all Tim Burton. Like, this sequence is Tim Burton. It's got the silly animation that he likes to use. And it's just wonderful. The buildup of it all, how she picks him up. She's clearly weird. They modeled her hair after Don King. I read that. And she's basically recounting this story. It's like, sound like a freight train being dropped from the Empire State Building. Worst crash I ever seen. And she drops him off after giving him a ride for a while. She's creepy. And that's the end of that. And she says, tell him Large Marge sent you. And then the payoff for the scene is really in the diner.
It is.
Because he says, Large Marge sent me. Everyone in there looks at him like they're just stunned. And then the dude, I don't know, this dude in the back, who's, I'm assuming, is just a character actor. This dude knocks it out of the park. It was a night just like this. It's so, he delivers these lines so earnestly. Worst accident I ever seen.
Actually, it was 10 years ago this very evening.
Well, that means that the Large Marge I rode with was her ghost. So perfect. That is an absolutely perfect scene, and scared me when I was a kid. Just scared me. But Large Marge is absolutely iconic.
So I'm going to go with cameos as the next thing. We get Twisted Sister just randomly.
What was the name of the song?
I don't even know the song they were singing.
It was like something about you're gonna burn in hell or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, man, they're really going with the conservative evangelistic stuff here, aren't they?
Oh, Twisted Sister.
Yeah.
And then you get Morgan Fairchild and James Brolin, a.k.a. Josh Brolin's dad.
Oh, man.
A.k.a. Joel McHale's dad on Community.
And this is so, the movie within the movie at the end is so perfect with James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild. The lines are delivered again. It's like, how did they get these people for these cameos, these short little scenes where they just nail it? Because not only do the character actors in the Large Marge scene nail it, but then you get in James Brolin, who look, it's James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild. They could have mailed this in.
Oh, yeah.
But they're amazing. Like, I want to see the full cut of the entire movie. The way he delivers, I know you are, but what am I? So amazing. So perfect. So perfect. Listen, this whole movie is just gold. It's just gold. So good. We talked about the stars at night. Now let's talk about the other iconic scene, because I could tell you a story about a young Dave who went to see a show at Worlds of Fun. It was like the old rock show where they performed all the hits from the 50s and 60s and 70s. And during the playing of Tequila, a young Dave got in the aisle and started doing the Pee-wee dance to the delight of the audience. And they shone the spotlight on me. And I thought I was going to be a star because I was doing the Pee-wee dance to Tequila.
You were.
And that was just because everybody would have done it. It was iconic. You could, at that time, after this movie comes out, you couldn't hear this song and not think about that scene. And rewatching that scene last night, again, it's just so perfect. He gets in trouble with the sons of Satan?
Yes, the sons of Satan, and like Elvira is the biker mama.
Cassandra Peterson, who played Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, is in this scene. It's kind of crazy. There's a running theme in the movie where all the women love Pee-wee.
Yes.
The dudes want to kill him. There's another great quotable thing where they're all like, I say we kill him. I say we beat him. Then we kill him. I say we torture him. Then we beat him. Then we kill him. Then we eat him. I say we let him go. No. Like so much quotable in this scene. And then he's like, don't I get a last request? And he goes and puts the money in the jukebox, makes the selection, puts on the cook's boots, elevated heel boots, and starts this dance to Tequila.
Which I think this dance sequence might have informed all my dance moves from me watching that up till now.
Like, listen, before Garth, Friends in Low Places at Royals games, they used to play this clip at Royals games for the 7th inning stretch. They used to play the clip of Pee-wee dancing to Tequila.
I think I would prefer that.
I do too. It was amazing.
Especially since like Garth at Royals games, they have this video where he introduces it and he's like, don't feel bad for the opposing team. And I'm like, I don't. They're beating us.
Royals fan props. Also, yeah, Garth, come on. How is Pee-wee? We had to do away with Pee-wee because he's not in the zeitgeist anymore, but somehow Garth is. Come on. Friends in Low Places? That was like 1992.
Yeah, you're in the Midwest.
But yeah, the Tequila scene, incredible. Just another iconic scene. Anything else on good stuff? The stuff that holds up over time?
I got nothing.
All right, let's move on to the stuff that doesn't hold up. Stuff that could have been better.
I got stuff.
Okay, why don't you go first?
Pee-wee is a jerk face, especially to Dottie.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Dottie's cute. She's good with bikes.
She's funny.
We know from Better Off Dead she can sing.
Yep.
Did you know she was on The Voice recently? Like the real lady? The actress? You look her up. I had no idea. I found out studying for this.
I know her as someone completely different.
She was in a ton of stuff.
So the thing that I most know her for being is Tommy Pickles in Rugrats.
Yeah, so she's the voice of Tommy.
And she's phenomenal.
Right, yeah. Oh, she's amazing. And in this movie, Dottie is lovable. She's like, yeah, young Dave could not get past that Pee-wee was keeping this girl at arm's length. Like, what are you doing, you moron?
Like, you don't want to go to the drive-in? Why?
Dottie's perfect. We all wanted a Dottie in our lives.
Dottie could do better.
She could do better. Yeah, but again, we're back to that whole, why do women fawn over Pee-wee?
It's the bow tie. And that's why I rock bow ties all the time.
I'm with you. Pee-wee was a jerk to Dottie. The scene with Mick.
Mick the convict?
Yeah. Where they get pulled over.
Yeah.
That was all kinds of cringy. So, first of all, they slap on disguises fast, which is funny. Pee-wee is dressed up in drag as a girl, which, whatever, that's fine. But then the cop oogles him?
Yeah.
I just wanted to get a look at you in that cute number. Like, dude, what? No, he looks awful.
You are a Abusing your power, officer.
He's the worst looking woman I've ever seen. Stop it. I guess that's why it's supposed to be funny, but it comes off as cringy to me. Also, there was a weird energy between him and Mick.
Weird energy, and like the cops look awful in this movie. We're not going to invest time or resources into finding your bicycle, Pee-wee. And then, I'm going to make you get out of the car so I can check you out.
And then Pee-wee just committing felonies.
Left and right.
He's like literally, at the end of the movie, he tries to pass him a file to escape from prison with. And the cop just calmly takes it out of the sandwich. Well, you tried, Pee-wee.
Yeah.
What are we trying to teach kids here?
So many, like, I can see why my mom really didn't care for me to watch this that much as a kid. Just because, like, there's some questionable things for younger eyes.
Yeah. There was more adult jokes than I remember the first time I watched this as an adult, especially in the scene with Simone.
Yeah.
There was a lot of double entendres. And it was interesting. And it's sort of, I mean, I respect what they were trying to do, but also it felt a little cringy.
And again, really paints men in a bad light because her boyfriend's like, I'm just going to get really angry and not talk to you at all and chase down Pee-wee.
Yeah, Andy's got a weird, creepy ownership vibe going on with Simone.
I don't like that.
So Simone, you go to Paris. You got to get away from this dude.
My dream is to live in the city of eternal love.
Yeah, that was Simone's dream.
And
she
I'm
makes
like,
it happen thanks to Pee-wee.
Well, she ends up in San Antonio. And I'm like, are you going to Paris, Texas? Where are you going, Simone?
She comes back. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. We would be remiss too if I didn't say that all the bike wrecking in this movie is also hilarious. I audibly laughed out loud at the scene at the beginning where Pee-wee wrecks his bike in front of the kids and does like a full somersault into a standing like gymnastics pose and goes, I meant to do that. And then the scene where they give him, the biker gang gives him a motorcycle and he rides it like 100 feet through a billboard, which prompts him to get taken to the hospital, have the weird dream with the clowns.
And he gets escorted by the motorcyclist to the hospital.
Which is good because then he sees the TV report and finds out where his bike is in Hollywood. But yeah, I forgot to mention that in the good stuff. Stuff that doesn't hold up. What else you got?
I don't know if I have. Okay, so I do actually.
You really got to scrounge.
I do.
This is a good movie.
I do have some.
Okay.
So Thor: Love and Thunder. It's too much Taika.
Wow.
That's what you have said.
Okay. Yeah.
If you're watching this, and especially if this was like your intro into the weird and wacky world of Tim Burton, this is very Tim Burton at his Tim Burtoniest.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you don't like Tim Burton, I can see you hating this movie.
Well, let's be really clear. Kids loved this movie. But this was not adults like your mom.
Yes.
Lots of people wouldn't let their kids watch this because they just said it was dumb. Like, it's Pee-wee's dumb. This is absurd. It's weird.
It's killing brain cells.
Yeah. And so, like, although this movie's huge with kids, this isn't a big winner with adults. It took me, so I loved this movie as a kid, but then sometime around middle school, I stopped watching it. And then when I came back to it as an adult, I was able to appreciate it. But like, this is the movie that springboards Tim Burton, but people didn't appreciate it in its time. Now I can go back and really appreciate it, see what he's doing, the absurdist quality of it.
Very absurd.
But yeah, it wasn't a popular thing back then. Like, it was a hit with kids. It spawns a Saturday morning show for Pee-wee, which is very kid friendly.
Yes.
More so than this movie, for sure.
Several words of the day were learnt. by Cody.
Yeah. and Cherry and Zombie, all the characters, Lawrence Fishburne.
Larry Fishburne.
But yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's all I have. But yeah, Tim Burton stuff, whew, man, the weirder it got, even that's the part that weirded out kids. But as an adult, I can say I can go back and appreciate what he did.
So like my Tim Burton fandom, it ebbs and flows because like my first Tim Burton experience probably is the Batman movies that he did. And I loved them, and Pee-wee's, and loved that. And then like you go a little ways and it's okay. And then like I become a big Johnny Depp fan, and Johnny Depp and Tim Burton do everything together, and life's great. And then like, okay, how long are we going to stretch out Alice in Wonderland? This is lasting forever. How many times are we going to revisit this? Can you make a movie without Johnny? I don't know. And so like, I'm in an interesting place. Like, I know that the dude is phenomenal at what he does, but at times, the way you felt about Thor: Love and Thunder, I get it, just because at times I think Tim Burton gets too much into Tim Burton deals,
especially after this. So I can sit here and I can say, man, I have a lot of respect for Tim Burton because I know that he's good at what he does. It's just not for me. For the most part, like I was not a big fan of Edward Scissorhands. Even his Batman, I loved comic books. And I think it was because I loved him so much that I did not appreciate his absurdist version of Gotham and absurdist version of the Joker. Like, I think that's why I like Nolan's version so much, because it was the first time they really did Batman, right?
Yeah. I will say, like, things that are meant to be absurdist, kind of like Beetlejuice. That makes sense.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is probably my favorite thing he does after this. But honestly, for me, peak Tim Burton is this movie.
It's all downhill from here, folks.
Well, but I think it just works with Pee Wee Herman. Like, he's a weird man-child. He's got Arrested Development, basically.
Yeah.
Where he's like stuck. He's clearly an adult, but he's like a child. And it just goes well with Burton, right? It's what I would expect to see in a Tim Burton movie. And so for me, this is about as perfect as Burton gets.
It really works in this, but again, if you don't like Tim Burton, you will hate this movie because this movie has a lot of Tim Burton influence.
If you don't like absurdist Tim Burton type stuff, or you weren't 8 when you watched this, you're not gonna like it. Greatest story ever told award. Is there biblical themes or references to Jesus or anything? There was a line that clicked out in my mind. Right. No, the answer is no.
I'm like,
but there is a line when he is reconciling with Dottie. And he says, he's being goofy. He's being like overly serious. He's like, I've learned something out here on the road. It's weird. They're on the phone.
Yes.
And he wants something, but also there's like this honesty coming out. He's like, I've learned something out here on the road, Dottie. Humility. And in that moment, I think he meant it.
But did he? Because literally a breath later, he's like, oh, but you're cutting out.
You're cutting out. He does learn. Like, look at Pee-wee's life. He's got all these people in his life who care about him, who are his friends, who would do anything for him. I mean, he gets his bike stolen. It's a bike. And yet they all come over to his house and sit there for 3.5 hours while he freaks out before they even say anything. And it's Chuck, poor Chuck, who's been at work all day, is the first one to finally say, Pee-wee, is there a point to this? And like none of them else were going to say anything. And so he's got all these friends, but throughout the whole movie, it's all about him. He's so self-absorbed. And in that moment, I think the moment on the phone with Dottie, and then of course he's with Dottie at the end of the movie, I think he's kind of seeing that Life's better with others.
So I'm not going to say he's done a complete 180.
Oh,
but
no, he's not there yet.
He is like, oh, I'm going to get you this popcorn. Here's a hot dog. Here's all the snow cones.
Here's a file to break out of prison with, Nick.
Oh, yeah. Pee-wee, what are you doing?
All right. Who wins this movie?
Dottie!
Dottie's the winner.
AKA Tommy Pickles. Her career is the best thing that comes out of this.
Oh my goodness. I can't argue with that. That wasn't who I was thinking.
You thought I was going to say Phil Hartman, and I'm Phil launches into the stratosphere later.
Well, usually I like to be pretty creative with this. I usually try to go in a different direction. So let me say it like this. For about 5 years after this movie comes out, it's clearly Paul Rubens. Paul Rubens is the winner of this movie. And then that incident happens. And then it's Tim Burton and Danny Elfman. And everyone enjoys Tim Burton and Danny Elfman together because this is the beginning of their tandem. And everything you love about Tim Burton starts here. So I'm going to go with Tim Burton.
Although I did notice during this that in the credits, Pee-wee is listed as himself. It's not Paul Rubens. He's not going by who he is now. He's literally just Pee-wee.
PW.
Yep.
Come on, PW. Who's the Go Get Him Next Time award? Who loses this movie? There's only one correct answer, by the way.
Francis.
Oh, no, it's not Francis. Francis is in Teen Wolf. He's got a great career after this.
So actually, I gotta look up this character's name, so I'll let you go first.
I'm not going to tell you the actor because I don't know his name, but clearly the loser's Amazing Larry. This dude, in the 1 second he was called to do something, has the perfect facial expression for getting called out in the middle of that meeting, and he looks amazing. I needed more Amazing Larry.
So that's a good one. I think it is Jason Hervey, aka Kevin Morton. The dude gets his new bike stolen.
Yeah, but he's a jerk.
He is.
By the way, Jason Hervey has a very short but brilliant Comet-like career as the jerk, as the young kid who's an absolute terror. The older brother in Wonder Years. Jason Hervey is that guy.
Nails it.
I forgot about him, but he plays that part in like just 45 seconds of pure jerkiness. It's so good.
That nun nearly walked off set.
I was born ready. Roll. All right. What are you giving this movie? Is this your first viewing?
No.
Your first viewing as an adult.
No, it's
No?
my first viewing in probably close to 15 years. I know I watched it in college.
Okay.
But
How many bikes out of 10?
like it didn't age well for me.
No.
Not
really.
at this stage in my life.
Okay.
I'll go 6.
All right. It's fair. I'm going to give it a 9. For me, it's just brilliant. It's so brilliant and genius. And I'm not usually a Tim Burton guy, but the absurdity works so well with the Pee Wee Herman, the joke of what Pee Wee Herman is. He's this man boy who's stuck in this arrested development. It just works so well with it. And I laughed, even though I knew all the beats and I know the lines. I just love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I'm giving it a 9.
That's up there.
All right. We need to go talk to Sam. He's going to tell us some more trivia. We talked about quite a bit of trivia.
Yes, and Sam, he knows the trivia.
Sam knows things. We're going to talk to him. Cody.
To the geek phone. The geek phone.
All right, we're here on the Geek Phone with Sam. Sam is our resident movie trivia guy. You could say you're our trivia geek of the round table, Sam.
Well, I wouldn't say a geek, but I'd say a connoisseur, so to speak.
We're refined here, right? in Sam's nomenclature, a connoisseur, please. Sam, it's been a while. We're glad to have you back on.
Oh, glad to be here. Glad to be here. I love to share my video knowledge to anyone.
Yeah. And today we're here talking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes.
What do you got?
Well, one thing's interesting is that this was Tim Burton's very first film, and it was also the first film that Danny Elfman ever scored of anything, actually, because prior to this, he had no experience at all with doing with orchestrations. And he was at first hesitant, but Paul Rubens, being actually a big fan of Oingo Boingo himself, pleaded him to do it. He also pleaded Tim Burton to do it. He was very good friends with Shelley Duvall, and he watched the film Frankenweenie, which he loved, and he really egged Warner Brothers on to have him direct the film. Yeah, it's funny because also Tim Burton was almost going to direct Gremlins. Believe it or not.
No way.
Yeah. He was tapped. He was one of the people suggested for the film Gremlins.
Okay, let's stop right there. How cool would Gremlins is already a cool movie. Can you imagine that thing directed by Tim Burton?
Yeah, because it looks like he would have been great for that kind of part. You could imagine, and you could imagine Danny Elfman doing the music to it, and you could have imagined him adding so much dark humor into the already dark humor that is Gremlins itself.
Yeah. Sub question: what can you imagine this movie any other way than Tim Burton directed? Like, if Tim Burton doesn't direct this movie, is this just obscurity? Do we ever remember this? Pee-wee Herman?
Well, you remember there was a sequel called Big Top Pee-wee, which Tim Burton had no involvement in, and yet Pee-wee would have still fought to show his charisma and everything about him. Mm-hmm. A fun fact: the original script to Pee-wee's Big Adventure was actually based on the film Pollyanna, about a guy, the formula about a guy who goes into a town filled with joyless people and he adds joy into it all, kind of like what Pollyanna was. But then he changed his mind after visiting the Warner Brothers studio lot set. He noticed how everyone was riding a bicycle, and he got his own, and it was a lot of fun. So instead, he based it off the neo-realist film The Bicycle Thieves, loosely.
That's a real movie, The Bicycle Thieves.
Yes, it's a neo-realist film from 1946.
Wow. That's crazy. So Paul Rubens is coming with he's got some film knowledge.
Yeah, he's got some film knowledge in his own right, but also it's funny because there's a scene, the scene where he's saving the pet shop and all those animals, like, there's still 3 fish in there,
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Funny. It's funny is that there's a scene where he teams up with the chimp, and like he's like frightened out of his mind as he holds snakes in his hands and he faints.
Yes.
It's funny is that that's actually based on a real life phobia. You see, what's ironic is that Tim Burton himself has a fear of chimps. And he loves snakes.
Wow.
He loves snakes, but Paul Rubens had a very numbing fear of snakes. Yeah. So that scream in his face is genuine.
I'm with him. I would do a lot better with chimps.
Yes.
Well, that's some good stuff. Anything else?
Also, it's interesting is that in the Alamo scene, the scene with the tour guide where he's like, "Welcome to the tour guide state," like there's no basement in the Alamo, that was improvised. The whole thing she was doing on the set, that was a complete improvisation.
Okay, so that's really interesting because we know that Jan Hooks, who plays the tour guide, and Phil Hartman and Paul Rubens are all they all come up in the comedy. Yeah. What's the word?
Cameos.
When they're doing it off the cuff.
It's called improv. Ad-lib.
Improv. Yeah, they're all students of the improv comedy style.
Yeah,
so that's really interesting.
Well, SNL is like the epicenter of all those ad lib geniuses.
Yes.
So you would expect them to be that way. Also, it's interesting, the Large Marge scene, that was almost cut from the film. And not for the reason you think it was. It wasn't because it was like too scary or something, but because Burton thought that it was a waste of space in the film. He just saw it as like this was just a fancy schmancy way to show off special effects, and it didn't really have much interest in it.
Well, that's amazing too, because
they egged him on. But they egged him on to keep. But then he egged him on to keep the scene because it wasn't because it was too scary, but because it wasted up space for him in the film.
Yeah, we just got done talking about how that scene's iconic.
Yes, it is. It is.
That's an iconic scene. I'm glad he didn't cut it.
I'm glad they didn't cut. I'm glad they didn't cut it either. And the person behind it, his name was Rick Hine or something like that. He would go on to do special effects for Beetlejuice and Ghostbusters 2 and the Pirates films as well.
Well, you can really see the Beetlejuice kind of effects going on in that Large Marge scene. Yes.
And one thing I also noticed in Pee-wee's Big Adventure is that even when he goes out into the world and he's surrounded by, there's not a single normal person that he meets. Everyone he meets is just this eccentric oddball and exaggeration of reality and everything, almost like a living cartoon. Almost. And it kind of shows that, if you want to see the odd stuff, just walk outside your door and take a look around, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's good stuff, Sam. Now answer this, because in my head, you live in a house with lots of contraptions like Pee-wee. Do you have a Rube Goldberg machine in your house?
Oh, that would be way too complicated for me to make. That would be way too complicated for me to make. I don't know how those machines are made, how one contraption affects the other and affects the other and affects the other. But it must be very daunting to make that kind of machine. Plus, it would take up space, and I don't want my apartment to look like some kind of a hamster's playset.
Right. It'd be way more time effective. It wouldn't be very time effective, I wouldn't think.
It would be kind of time effective. It was like I built an entire contraption that filled up my entire apartment, spent over $1,000 on it just so I can crack toast.
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, Sam, your knowledge is always welcome here on Pop Culture Pastor. Thank you for dropping some of it on us today.
Well, pleasure's all mine, and I can't wait to look. And I look forward to the next one.
All right, we'll see you.
We'll see you then.
You are listening to Pop Culture Pastor.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Pop Culture Pastor. We work really hard to give you lots of different kind of content and things to listen to. And you've done just been so great taking us in and really adopting us. The people that listen to us are so loyal. Like we follow some of the statistics, and you guys listen to all the episodes. So we just want to take this moment to just say thank you. Thank you so much. And we're really trying hard to kind of keep developing, keep coming up with ideas and new things so we don't get stale, but then keep the things that we think you really like, the things you like to listen to, the movies, the TV shows and all that. So just keep listening, inviting your friends. Make sure if you're not subscribed that you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Apple or Spotify or Google. We're on all of those platforms, all the big ones, I guess you could say. And make sure and follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Facebook in particular, we have our main page that you should follow, but then we also have the community group, the Pop Culture Pastor community group, where you can join in on the discussion and share things with us and with the rest of the group that maybe we haven't seen, and we can all talk about that together. Plus, you get to see all the posts from the group. Because of the way Facebook pages work, you don't always get to see all of the things we post from the page. So join the community group after you follow the page on Facebook. And most of all, just thank you. Thank you for listening. We went to Comic-Con in Kansas City this past weekend, saw a lot of people there, a lot of people that listen, made some new friends, some new listener friends. And so let's welcome them all in, and let's keep having fun talking about this pop culture. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.